All right. Hi, I'm Sarah, Senior Product Manager for the Monitor team, and I've got Sean McCann here, Senior Support Manager for the APAC zone, and today we're talking about on-call management. Sean's going to walk me through how he manages for that team and how his team does it, so that I can gain some insight as we start to add this feature set to GitLab. Take it away, Sean.
Thanks, Sarah. So I have already shared with Sarah the handbook page within support in terms of how on-call works for us here in support, just to give a little bit of an understanding of the process that we work through, because that gives some insight into how we are using PagerDuty and why we are using PagerDuty in the way that we are. The two most important aspects of PagerDuty in the world of support is for setting up the schedules that are needed for the various on-call rotations that we have, as well as alerting when any of the prerequisite triggers are hit, which for us typically tends to be an emergency ticket that has been created by a customer. There are other use cases which we've investigated that we haven't used just yet. What I'm going to do is share my screen because I think it's going to be a little bit more helpful to actually see what we've got in PagerDuty, because that might give a little bit more context in terms of what we have, why we have it, and the way that we're using it right now. So the first thing to note is that we don't have just one schedule, we have several schedules. We've also broken that up based on region, depending on the staffing requirements that we have for the different regions, based on how many people we have in the different regions. So this is why you see things like when I go into the escalation policies and schedules, customer emergencies, APAC group 2. Unfortunately, this isn't alphabetical, which is one of my annoyances with PagerDuty. It's one of many that I have, but you can see it like down here, customer emergencies, AIMA shadow. So we've got a lot of intricacies that are here. What we have, if I actually go into this group itself, so you can start to see that one of the things that we do like with PagerDuty is when we're setting up the schedules, we have the ability to build in a safety net. So we have the standard configuration layer, layer 1. These are the people that will get the initial alert when it comes in. So in the context of the screen that I'm showing right now, this is when a customer sends in an email to emergency@gitlab.com. That will fire off a Zendesk ticket, which there is a trigger with PagerDuty that will immediately put a comment in Slack in specified channels for us. Depending on how notifications have been set on an individual basis, people will then also get, if they've set it up, a phone call, a text message, an email, any of the different levels of alerting that you can have within PagerDuty. Should we not have a response, so someone actually accepting solved, so that's showing the acknowledgement that the alerts come through within 50 minutes, the override layer kicks in, which is the next layer of alerting that goes out to make sure that someone has eyes on it. And then we have a final layer as well. So these 3 layers, really it's who is going to be doing the work. If the person that is on call for whatever reason may have missed that alert, how can we get more eyes on it? And if that also fails, how do we make sure that we get someone in a leadership position that can jump in to go, okay, something's happened here, let me see if I can find anyone. So it's really difficult to tease apart those two things, the scheduling and the overriding and the alerting portion of it, because we approach both of them at the same, simply because we want to make sure that we are responding as quickly as possible to customers when they are having any problems. One of the things that we do like to have here is we can have this scheduling of overrides. So being a manager of a team that is responsible for being on call, people in the team need to take time off. They need to celebrate Friends and Family Day. They may have other things going on, which means that they are not going to be able to be ready to respond to any kinds of alerts that may be coming in. So we need an easy way to get someone else to cover that particular shift. So having an override where we can specify how long that's going to be, if it just needs to be for the next 30 minutes while someone runs out and goes and grabs some more milk from a cafe or something, to something that's going to be longer because they're going to be on leave. This makes it very, very easy. It's better than having a spreadsheet, because if you have a spreadsheet, you either try and do a one-for-one swap, or if you just move one person out, everyone else then has to kind of move along. Lots of manual overhead, lots of work. It's not that great for us.
So, Sean, does that work if I'm on call and I need someone to cover my shift? I would create an override for a custom duration and select them, or I put it up for grabs. How does that work?
So in terms of the tool, it's the format. So you set up the custom duration, you put the person in, that's done. In terms of the process, obviously collaboration is something very close and dear to our hearts. So we always ask the team to check with the team first to find who that person will be that's going to be accountable for that duration. The team's awesome. So we've never had a problem where we haven't been able to find someone to be around in case a customer has a problem. Worst case scenario, this would be one of the things that we would escalate up to the managers to go, hey, we seem to have a bit of a misalignment here in terms of making sure that we have the coverage that we need. Does that answer your question? Okay. The other thing that I wanted to call out here is just the stacking of schedules. This is actually APAC schedule complementary, which help for us when we start to look at what are those regional differences, especially in terms of a number of people that are in a team. So within APAC, as an example, because of the sheer number of time zones that we span within the region, and because of the number of people we have as support engineers in the region, we made the decision some time ago that it's actually less stress for the team to split on call. So instead of being on call for an entire APAC business hour coverage period, which is mentioned in the handbook, but that's going to be a good 10 to 12 hours. Some people then either need to get up really early in their morning if they're based in Western APAC in order to be available for the start of the on-call schedule, or they need to be around for a lot longer than they normally would in the evenings because they're based in Eastern APAC and the schedule is going to be extending for farther than that. So what we did is leverage the ability to have multiple schedules that are complementary by splitting essentially the team up into two different types of on-call. So we have a level of overlap right in the middle, but we have a shorter morning period for those that are in Eastern APAC, and then a shorter afternoon period for those that are going to be in Western APAC. So the net result is people are on call more often, but it's for a less amount of time that they are on call. We were able to roll this out and get it all set up in parallel to what we had, which was one person for the entire shift. And then as soon as we were ready to go with this, we actually put this into the rotation that we have, which you can see here, which escalation policies actually use the schedules. Put this one in, remove the old one, and we were good to go. You can see here that we also have multiple policies, which are in terms of different schedules. We have a target of 95% of SLA attainment for first responders. In order to make sure that we're hitting that, we have a first response hawk, which is a role that rolls through the different regions to make sure we're getting to those tickets within the time period set so we're not having breaches. As a way to make sure that we know who is actually doing that role, we have a schedule just for that. There are regional differences. Some regions have the same person that is on call for customer emergencies also maintaining this role. Other regions will split it. And from a tools perspective, we can have all of these various schedules, and then we can just decide which policies we want to put them into as and when we need them. Anything in particular that I can answer, anything else that I can dive into? That's a pretty comprehensive overview of what we're doing with PagerDuty.
That was really helpful. So I have a couple of questions about your rotations just to kind of get a sense of, we are in the first couple of iterations trying to provide like a schedule builder that applies to the largest number of use cases. So a lot of the time when you go into an incident management tool, you can select daily or weekly or follow the sun templates.
Right.
We want to start immediately with a custom, you go in, create a rotation, and you add a shift of some length, hours, days,
Right.
weeks, you can choose. And then you choose the number of people to add to that particular shift, and then they simply rotate.
Right.
Do you have a pattern to how people rotate on call? Do you have a rotation?
Yeah, we do. So
Okay.
the way that we've got it set is 1 week on, and
Yep.
then depending on how many people are part of that rotation, that could repeat every 6 weeks, every 8
Yep.
weeks, every 12 weeks.
Okay. And then the other part of this that you just described to me was you split it so that people are on call for shorter periods of time, but more often so that they're not on call for the whole block of time, which
Correct.
which would dig into their personal life. So when you're creating your rotations, you're going to want some way to restrict a particular rotation to a time interval. And then there will be
Correct.
spots in it where no one is on call.
So ideally, there won't be any spots where no one is on call because we are a global team. So we have the ability to have more of a follow the sun model. But we do use the ability of limiting the number of hours and actually specifying number of hours that is on call.
Yeah.
This is mostly done, we use UTC as our single time metric, and we just define what those UTC hours are going to be.
When I am looking at that schedule, customer emergencies, group 2, I see spaces in between the shifts. Do you have a bunch of rotations that are, yeah, there you go. They're layered.
This is, yeah, so this is going to be one of the nuances of PagerDuty, which is the way that it's displaying that time. This is just a day, and this is just saying that there is someone that is there for a block of the day. We don't have the ability to have multiple schedules shown in one view. So this is this APAC group 2 are going to be the people that have been shifted to later in APAC's business hours. So we can't show you what's happening earlier. Where I can show that is if I go back and actually go into the escalation policies. If we have a look at the customer emergency rotation, these are a list of all of the schedules that have been associated with the policy that we have and which layer we have. So this is the configuration layer, the override layer, and the notify layer that we have at the bottom here. So you can see right now, for example, within our customer emergency rotation, that's sitting with an individual who is based in AMA. And then we've also, you can see that this is who else we have that is part of it. This, you can see here, escalates after 10 minutes, goes to the next one. The one issue with this is you don't know what the time is for these schedules just by looking at this page.
Right.
Not that it's really much of a problem for us, because once we've set it, we tend to just ignore it because we don't need to come back to it. But this is confusion, because if you look at that, you don't really know, like, is EMEA up next? Probably not. Is it the shadow for AMA? Maybe.
Yeah.
Is it APAC group 1, group 2? It's confusing.
Okay, this is helpful. Because, so I'm just going to repeat back what you said, just to make sure I'm on the same page. So in the first step of that escalation policy for your emergency rotation, an alert's going to come in and it's going to evaluate all of those schedules, and it is going to look for who is on call.
Correct.
And depending on what time of day it is, it's going to find the person who's on call in the part of the world where it is daytime.
Yeah.
All of the other ones do not have anyone on call during that time. So what you've done is you've gone through and you have layered schedules so that people are on call in their time zone at a reasonable hour.
Correct.
And so you have 24/7 coverage around the world.
Correct.
Okay, awesome. That was helpful. In Ops Genie, I'll be interested to get your feedback on this. They have a way in a single schedule to create a bunch of different rotations in a much more linear fashion. So then you can see them all layered and name them based on your time zones to see what the final schedule, a full view is going to be. That I may have misunderstood your problem, that may not solve it, but I'll be interested to see your thoughts on that.
I think that would work well. Being able
Okay.
to view what that resulting schedule is, having overlapping schedules for different types of policies would be useful as well because of those multiple roles that we have.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Anything on the alerting that you want to have a look at, or you good with that as well? For us, the biggest requirements are going to be integration with Zendesk, so we can actually pull the ticket and fire that into Slack, so also an integration with Slack. If there is another mechanism to integrate with GitLab, since we're looking to build this into GitLab and we can do something around issues, that will solve a problem that currently we don't have a solution for, which is how can we actually monitor when specific types of issues are created for the support team to deal with. How do we know, other than notifications of the issue itself, that there is any kind of timer on it? We have no solution for that, so that is absolutely a nice to have, not a hard requirement.
Okay, let me make sure I understand. Today, you have no way to easily tell how long something's been open? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. I can actually show you one of our issues. Let me stop sharing my screen for a second and just quickly navigate to that. Just so that I'm not missing where this recording is going to be put up. Bear with me 1 second. I just need to get to our internal requests.
We've got an incident list built today. We just put it together, so it's still fairly minimal, but we just established incidents separate to issues in GitLab. So we did that by adding an issue type field to the issue. So now it's a type of issue, but now it gives us the ability to customize the interface, which we're removing everything that has nothing to do with incidents. And we're adding tabs. You can have different resources on it, so on and so forth. So instead of you having to use this issues list, if you hover over operations on the left-hand side.
Yep.
There you go. That's hover over it again. You see incidents on that list down.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. If we build an integration with Zendesk and a customer support ticket comes in and it creates an incident, it's going to show up here. And you're going to have, it's a tabular view. So you're going to be able to see who's assigned. You're going to be able to see if it's published to a status page, when it was created, and then you can click on it to get more information. So simple, but dedicated view.
Yeah. Would we be able to have the reverse happen where we could take issues that are created in this particular project, which would then trigger some kind of a notification, even if it's not a Zendesk ticket, but something to, because right now what we have is when we have other team members create an internal request as an issue, predominantly if there is a license issue, which can include things like plain change requests or finding out the number of billable members, that goes in the template that we have. We are just mentioning a group that are responsible to look at this. But that's as far as we go. There's no other alerting mechanism that we have in place to go, here is another bit of work that needs to happen. So we can't tie any SLA around that to say, this has come in, we now have, for the sake of argument, 24 hours to respond to this issue.
Okay, so what I just heard you say is a lot of your process is based on the use of labels.
Yep, correct.
Okay. And people internally create these and then add labels to them, which kicks off different processes or makes different groups of people aware.
Yeah, so we actually have the templates that will attach the labels. And then it's either we notify a group through GitLab just by @ and the group name, or we ask people to sign up to notifications for any new issues that are created in this project. That works, but it's very, very difficult to make sure we have any safety net in terms of responding within X amount of time to these
Yep.
internal?
So you can still use labels on incidents, and you can still use issue templates on incidents,
Okay.
if that's helpful. The list view might give you better insight into how long things have been open, and you can filter by it. And
Okay.
then we can also, we can add attributes to incidents as you need them. We're adding a severity widget or a severity attribute to it
Okay.
for the SRE team. If you wanted a service level objective one, I could add that to incidents for you. You could tell me what values you want, and then I could make that a column in the table.
That would be amazing.
Okay.
That solves a problem that PagerDuty can't solve for us right now, because it doesn't integrate to that level that we would need it in GitLab.
So that would be pretty simple for us to do.
Awesome.
Add it to the sidebar, call it SLO. You tell me if you want it to be an input field or if you want it to be drop-down values, and then we could surface it in the incident list if that's a huge thing that you need to start using incidents. Like if I could build that next milestone and you would start using incidents, whew, Sid would be very happy.
Yeah, so we would absolutely, because we don't have anything else, even though it's separate from what we're doing with PagerDuty and tickets,
yeah,
we would still be using it because
yep.
it's 100% better than what we have, which is nothing.
Okay. Then let me write down create issue for SLO widget, and then I'll tag you on it so that we can collaborate on it.
Amazing.
And then what time is it? I think we're at the end. Okay.
We are.
Let's call the recording.